Here is a number that FIFA has been using to defend itself against every criticism that has landed on the 2026 World Cup in the past 12 months. 500 million. That is the number of ticket requests FIFA says it has received for this tournament. 500 million requests. The demand, FIFA insists, is unprecedented. The interest is global. The World Cup has never been more wanted. And yet, India, a country of 1.4 billion people, the world's most populous nation, a country where cricket dominates but where football's global pull is real and consistent, may not be able to watch it at all. Not because they don't want to, not because of a lack of interest, because FIFA and India's broadcasters cannot agree on a price. 5 weeks from the opening match, with one of the world's two most populous countries still without a broadcast deal, the tournament that was supposed to be watched by more people than any sporting event in history is facing the possibility of a blackout affecting hundreds of millions of viewers before the first goal is scored. That is where things stand today, the 19th of May, 2026, 23 days from kickoff. And the broadcasting crisis, which is entirely new, entirely unresolved, and has received far less attention than it deserves, is just one of the fresh dimensions of a global backlash that is reshaping how the world sees this tournament with every passing week. So what's really happening here? Let's go through it all. Start with the broadcasting crisis, because it is the most recently developed and the most striking in terms of its scale. FIFA has finalized broadcast deals in more than 175 territories worldwide. Two major markets remain outstanding: India and China, combined population of nearly 3 billion people, combined contribution of more than 22% of total global television viewership during the Qatar 2022 World Cup, are both still in dispute with FIFA over rights pricing. China's situation resolved 4 days ago, on the 15th of May, when China Media Group formally announced a comprehensive deal with FIFA covering the 2026 and 2030 World Cups. The agreement reportedly cost approximately $60 million for the 2026 rights alone, a significant reduction from the $250 to $300 million FIFA had originally requested. That is a concession of staggering proportions. FIFA dropped its asking price by roughly 80% to secure the Chinese market. It tells you something about how much the organization needed that deal closed, and something about the shifted commercial realities of the Chinese media landscape. But China is resolved. The 509 million viewers who watched Qatar 2022 in China will be able to watch 2026. India is not resolved, and today, the 19th of May, 23 days from the opening match, India remains the world's most populous nation without confirmed access to the biggest sporting event on the planet. The numbers behind the standoff are specific and documented. FIFA initially sought $100 million for Indian broadcast rights. A Reliance Disney joint venture, one of the most powerful media entities in South Asia, offered $20 million. FIFA rejected the offer. No private broadcaster has submitted a qualifying bid since. The gap between what FIFA wants and what the Indian market will pay is not close to narrowing. The Delhi High Court issued formal notices to the Indian government and to Prasar Bharati, the public broadcaster, following a legal petition seeking a mandatory free-to-air broadcast on DD Sports to prevent a total blackout. The court is engaged, the lawyers are involved, and the clock is ticking toward June 11th with no deal in place. The time zone dimension is critical to understanding why Indian broadcasters won't pay FIFA's price. Unlike Qatar 2022, which fell in largely friendly broadcast hours for Asian markets, the 2026 tournament in North America means most matches kick off between midnight and 7 in the morning Indian Standard Time. A broadcaster paying $100 million for rights to a tournament where the advertising audience is asleep for most of the action cannot make the mathematics work. FIFA's pricing reflects the tournament's commercial value in the American market, not its commercial value in Asian time zones, and no Indian broadcaster will absorb that mismatch at FIFA's asking price. During Qatar 2022, FIFA's own data shows that China and India combined for 1.9 billion viewers across linear and digital platforms. If India goes dark in 2026, the tournament that was supposed to be watched by more people than any sporting event in history loses access to a market that contributed nearly a billion viewers 4 years ago. That is not a footnote. That is a commercial and reputational blow of the first order. Now here is where the backlash takes a different and very specific turn, because one of the voices now joining the chorus of criticism about this tournament's pricing and accessibility is not a fan organization, not a rights body, not a government official. It's a player, an American player, the host nation's own squad. Timothy Weah, the U.S. M&T midfielder who plays his club football in Europe and who is expected to be in Mauricio Pochettino's final squad, said publicly this week that World Cup tickets are too expensive, not in a passing comment, in a formal statement to media. The son of the former World Player of the Year, a professional footballer preparing to represent his country at a home World Cup, told reporters that the prices are too expensive and that he hopes FIFA will do something about it. His manager, Pochettino, dismissed the concern. He said he didn't think about the price of tickets and that this was something for FIFA to handle. That response generated its own backlash from American fans, who felt that the coach of the host nation's team declining to acknowledge a pricing concern raised by one of his own players was the wrong response at the wrong moment. The exchange revealed something significant. When a player on the host nation's squad, a player whose participation in this tournament is the reason those tickets exist, says publicly that the prices are too high, and his manager responds by saying it's not his problem, the disconnect between the tournament's commercial apparatus and the human experience of the people inside it becomes very visible very quickly. FIFA President Infantino has defended the pricing in language that has not landed well. He said the organization had to apply market rates. He said demand is enormous. He cited the 500 million ticket requests. He has not addressed the documented fact that resale prices for 90% of matches are currently falling. He has not addressed the fact that 80% of American host city hotels are reporting bookings below a typical summer. He has not addressed Weah's specific concern. The defense has become a repetition, and repetition in the face of documented contrary evidence is not persuasive. Here's where things get interesting in a different direction, because the halftime show announcement, confirmed last week, has generated a backlash that nobody in FIFA's communications team appeared to fully anticipate. Madonna, Shakira, BTS, and Coldplay's Chris Martin will headline the first ever World Cup final halftime show at MetLife Stadium on the 19th of July. It is modeled on the Super Bowl halftime format. It is the first time in the history of the World Cup that the final has incorporated a major musical performance. FIFA described it as a truly special moment, bringing together music, football, and a shared commitment to improving the lives of children around the world. The football community's response has been, to put it delicately, divided. The argument in favor is straightforward. The Super Bowl halftime show has become one of the most watched annual entertainment events in the United States. Incorporating similar production values into the World Cup final expands the tournament's reach beyond its existing football audience and brings new viewers to football's biggest moments. In the American market specifically, where the World Cup is competing for cultural space with NFL football, basketball, and baseball, the halftime show is a rational commercial strategy. The argument against it is equally straightforward. The World Cup final is 90 minutes of football played by the best players in the world at the peak of human competitive tension. It does not need supplementing. The halftime break exists for tactical adjustments, for rest, for the specific mental and physical reset that the second half requires. It is not dead time to be filled. It is part of the game's architecture. And placing a pop concert inside it, however well produced, however globally famous the performers, signals something about how FIFA sees the product it is selling. The football is not quite enough on its own. It needs Shakira. That is the message, intended or not, of the decision. And the reaction across football communities in Europe and South America, where the World Cup has never needed help filling an occasion, has been consistent. This is a tournament that has been optimized for the American entertainment market in ways that have produced a product that feels different from the World Cup those communities grew up watching. Think about what this adds up to. A broadcasting deal with India unresolved 23 days out. An own player saying tickets are too expensive and his manager saying it's not his problem. A halftime show that half the football world sees as a statement about the tournament's confidence in its own product. Hotel operators in host cities describing the event as a non-event. Resale prices still falling for 90% of matches. The US MNT's most important player in the worst scoring form of his career. An Amnesty International report warning of human rights risks for international visitors. A $48 transportation bill absorbed by states, not FIFA. Climate scientists warning about dangerous heat conditions at a quarter of all matches. None of this individually collapses the tournament. The football will happen. The Azteca will fill. Someone will lift the trophy in New Jersey on the 19th of July. The matches in the knockout rounds, when the pressure is at its most extreme and the best players in the world are operating at maximum intensity, will produce the football that only a World Cup produces. But the global backlash that FIFA is facing right now, from broadcasters, from players, from fan organizations, from hotel operators, from state governors, from human rights bodies, from climate scientists, is not one thing. It is not a political dispute or a ticketing complaint or a logistics problem. It is all of those things simultaneously. And the organization's response to each individual element has been consistent. Defend the decision, cite the demand numbers, move on. That approach has a cost. The cost is visible in the India broadcast standoff, where a market of 1.4 billion people is 3 weeks from being shut out of the biggest football tournament in history because FIFA's pricing doesn't reflect the commercial reality of the market it's trying to serve. The same misalignment between FIFA's price and the market's willingness to pay that produced the resale ticket collapse has now produced a broadcast deal collapse in the world's most populous country. The historical comparison matters here. Qatar 2022 was surrounded by controversy for 12 years before the tournament began. The criticism was sustained and organized and came from serious organizations with serious evidence. And when the football began, it was extraordinary. The tournament produced memories, Messi's redemption, Morocco's semi-final run, Japan's group stage wins over Germany and Spain, that no amount of pre-tournament controversy could diminish. That is the precedent that suggests 2026 will ultimately be remembered for its football. Because the football at this tournament, the talent assembled, the storylines already written into the squads, is genuinely extraordinary. And football has a way of asserting its own truth once the ball is moving, that no broadcast dispute or halftime show debates can fully override. But India still doesn't have a deal, and the clock is running. What do you think? Should FIFA have prioritized access over revenue in both the ticket market and the broadcasting market? Or is this simply what it costs to run the biggest sporting event on Earth at a genuinely global scale? Leave it in the comments. I genuinely like to know how you see it. If this kind of honest, up-to-date football journalism is what you come here for, no hype, just a real story sourced from today's news, a like and a subscribe means everything. I read every comment. See you in the next one. 23 days. The backlash is real. The football is coming anyway. It always does.